What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video, and I was really hoping that I was not going to have to make this video, that tensions between Russia and Ukraine would end with the territories and Russia keeping the peace. Obviously, I had in the back of my mind that this was a possibility coming, but regardless, it's looking like a full-blown war has officially broken out in Ukraine. Russia invades Ukraine on many fronts in brutal act of war. Honestly, I knew Russia was going to be moving troops into those regions in Ukraine. I did not expect them to launch a full-blown invasion and start, launching missiles at the capital, Kiev, whatever, It's been an absolutely insane day of watching footage of, Russian fighter jets just flying around these massive cities. You know, you have explosions going off, gunfire. Chernobyl, the nuclear disaster plant, apparently had fierce fighting between Russian and Ukrainian forces. This is just, honestly, one of the craziest things I've seen in my lifetime. Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine on Thursday, unleashing airstrikes on cities and military bases and sending in troops and tanks from three sides in an attack that could rewrite post-Cold War security order. Ukraine's government pleaded for help as civilians piled onto trains and cars to flee. President Vladimir Putin ignored global condemnation and cascading new sanctions as he unleashed the largest ground war in Europe since World War II and chillingly referred to his country's nuclear arsenal. He threatened any country trying to interfere with consequences you've never seen. Ukrainian officials said their forces were battling Russians on multiple fronts, but had suffered dozens of deaths and had also lost control of the decommissioned Chernobyl nuclear power plant, scene of the world's worst nuclear disaster. Anytime you start talking about a large major invasion from one major country to another and not seen since World War II, you know stuff is starting to get real. Seriously though, I've just been seeing a little bit of footage here and there of just military vehicles rolling into town. There was a scene of Russian paratroopers falling from the sky over an airport in Ukraine, and it looked like something out of Red Dawn. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie. I don't know. Obviously, last time there was anything similar to this, I was incredibly young. The wars in the Middle East started in the early 2000s. I was a little baby, so as far as stuff going crazy and starting out of nowhere, this is one of the few times I've ever seen it. I will say it's insane for Putin to be like, anyone who gets in the way will face consequences that have never been seen. I do know that Russia is a nuclear power, right? I just thought we all knew that it's a horrible idea to even threaten that. Cause listen, dude, I don't want anything to get nuked. I love my life. But if Putin presses that button, the entire world has a lot of buttons to press right back. I think he would be absolutely insane to, actually use any nuclear weapons in this war if anyone were to intervene. That being said, even the threat has been a scary deterrent, I'm sure. Overall, I feel like what's going to happen here is, Ukraine's not gonna fare too incredibly well. It's a great country. It's huge. It's got a lot of people. That being said, the Russian military is one of the most powerful militaries in the world, and just on sheer size alone is a lot larger. And on top of that, after one day of fighting, they're already saying in reports that Russia has air superiority. 3 U.S. officials have told Newsweek they expect Ukraine's capital, Kiev, to fall to incoming Russian forces within days and the country's resistance to be effectively neutralized soon after. Obviously, I don't hope that's the case. That being said, it does look like Russia has launched an just absolute insane invasion. They've managed to take out a majority of the Ukrainian air defense, and once that happens, it's just really difficult to really do a whole lot against an insane army. If you can't be taking out planes, and they do manage to get control of some airports, then all of a sudden they can start landing troops by the boatload, landing supplies by the boatload, and there's not too much they can do. And that seems to be their plan, because one of the things that they opened up with was actually airdropping troops into some airports. There's been a lot of fighting at airports, but that was one of the main things Russia looks like they're trying to get control of, and Ukraine is fighting back. But overall, it looks like the strategy is just to simply overwhelm the Ukrainian defenses with the size of the military. And because Ukraine itself is not a NATO country, it's not like anyone's going to be shoving a ton of troops in there. The United States has said any aggression into any NATO territory will be met with the full force of the NATO countries, but Ukraine just simply is not a NATO country, so they don't have that distinction. Obviously, all the countries of the world as well have not been super stoked about any of this going on and have released a huge list of new sanctions. I'm going to break those down. I'm going to start with the EU. The European foreign ministers agreed to sanction 27 individuals and entities, including banks financing Russian decision makers and operations in the breakaway territories. And the package of sanctions also include all members of the lower house of Russian parliament who voted in favor of the recognition of the breakaway regions. You know, I think this is a good step. Obviously, all sanctions are going to hurt the economy. They take a little while to take effect, but I think the real way you make Russia have to do something is by targeting, members of the parliament and the elite. It is an oligarchy over there. You know, the average Russian citizen isn't really going to be in a situation to be like making a huge impact on the government. It's just not how it's set up. That being said, if you can make everyone close to Putin and Putin himself start to suffer, you might actually start to see them behave differently. You know, Putin started to talk about in the speech before he invaded a lot about like the Russian Empire. But if the emperor is going to be broke, you don't got much of an empire. You feel me? You kind of have to take advantage of the fact that he wants to be ruler of Russia and make his ruling class not have such huge advantages to be able to control the population as easily or enjoy a nice life. As for the UK, jolly good old England, they also released some stuff since they're no longer a part of the EU. Britain imposed sanctions on Gennady and Timchenko and 2 other billionaires with close links to President Putin, and on 5 banks, Rossiya, IS Bank, Gen Bank, That Bank, and Black Sea Bank. The lenders are relatively small, and only Promisvia Bank is on Russia's central bank list of systematically important credit institutions. See, but here's the thing. I think these are very specific. You know, obviously it's not as broad as the EU sanctions, but the reason that they're focusing on these specific banks and billionaires is probably because they're the ones that stand the most to benefit from invasion. You know, I don't know that for 1,000,000%, but I'm assuming a lot of the banks that they're focusing on, if they're not listed as major credit institutions, in one way or another are directly involved with this and are going to benefit from this. You know, otherwise I don't really know what they're doing, just smacking some like random small banks in Russia. Obviously, a lot of the large banks have already been sanctioned. The one thing that does suck about sanctions, though, is it tends to affect the Russian just normal populace the most. You know, if people can't get cash out of banks, if inflation starts to go crazy, sure, that's going to hurt the millionaires and billionaires that are running stuff over there. But that being said, the average person's going to be more affected if they can't afford food anymore. That's what sucks. That being said, they've kind of forced our hand. We can't just let them fully invade Ukraine and do absolutely nothing and threaten the sovereignty of another country. And as for the good old United States, you know, home, U.S. President Joe Biden announced new sanctions targeting Russian banks and sovereign debt, among other steps. Sanctions will be applied to VEB Bank and Russia's military bank, which does defense deals, Biden said. Starting on Wednesday, U.S. sanctions began against Russian elites and their family members. The new sanctions are not limited to Russia. The U.S. also went after individuals in Belarus, including the country's defense minister, for that country's role in facilitating the attack. They helped invade Ukraine, literally. And Biden announced a new deployment of ground troops and air forces to NATO's eastern flank, even as he reiterated that U.S. troops would not engage in conflict in Ukraine. Our forces are not and will not be engaged in the conflict, he said, addressing the nation from the White House East Room in his first appearance in the public since Russian attack commenced late Wednesday. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but defend NATO allies and reassure those allies in the East. This is where things start to get a little bit scary. You know, I want everyone to know I think the odds of World War III are very extremely small, and I hope that they don't happen. That being said, if Putin takes Ukraine and decides at that point to attack NATO countries, it's popping off. Like, you know, I don't think he's that stupid. That being said, I didn't think he was going to be dumb enough to invade Ukraine either. If he does decide to start taking on NATO countries, basically everyone in NATO, that includes France, the UK, Germany, the United States, most major military powers have said that they will back up all NATO countries to the fullest extent of their force. And I think that means the fullest extent of their force, not just in terms of sanctions. I'm hoping this last round of extremely small sanctions will be enough to make Putin realize that, like, even if he goes through with this, it's not going to be fun for anybody. But that being said, you know, it looks like everybody's getting ready and at least drawing the line in the sand of where you can't cross. I think Putin wouldn't invade NATO countries only because that would literally be a guaranteed way to assure he no longer has control of Russia, because that's just not going to go well, bro. No matter who it was. Like, if any one country just decided to 1v30 all of the countries in Europe and the United States, you're not gonna have a good time. Like, it really doesn't matter what country you are, that's not going to go incredibly well. And it's not gonna go well for us either. Obviously, I don't want to fight a war. But that being said, it just kind of seems like it's going to have to stop at Ukraine, because invading a NATO country is basically just a guaranteed way to lose all power in Russia, if you're Vladimir Putin, and he seems pretty bent on maintaining power. And, you know, I don't think we should let him roll into NATO countries either. You gotta draw the line somewhere, you know? That being said, I think that's gonna do it for the video. I just felt like updating you guys. Hopefully this ends up ending here. I didn't think it was gonna get here. As for everyone in Ukraine, I hope you all stay very safe. I'm sure it's insane if you're living there right now. Seriously, like, I hope you guys stay safe. Putin, if you're watching this, what the hell, man? You just kind of suck. Jokes aside, though, I know it's not something to be memeing around with, but that is going to do it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed, you could press the like button, comment down below, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm just gonna wrap it up, and yeah, on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.